Afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching this webinar from, and welcome to Harnessing the Power of AI and Automation. My name is David Pickering. I'm from the product marketing team here based out of Australia. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items that we just want to talk about. So this presentation and webinar is available on demand, so you will be able to review this at a later date or time. And also you may be able to get, if you're interested in it, share the link to someone who might want to watch this later. We do have a question and answer, so there will be the ability to ask questions of me during the session, so please put that into the question and answer chat. We do have a couple of poll questions that we want, a poll question we want you to go through, so please answer that as we go through the session. It's only going to be about 30 minutes, so we shouldn't really run over time today. We want to keep this nice, short and direct as to what we turned up to look at, which is about AI and automation within the Avanti solutions. And more than anything else, I hope you enjoy this. I hope you get some valuable information out of what we're going to talk about today. But before I get started, I wanted to ask one particular question of you, and that is, are you planning on adopting generative AI in your organisation? A lot of people have talked about it. A lot of people have sort of said, hey, yeah, I might or I might not use it. But say I'm more interested in, do you have a plan for adopting it? And that could be, yes, we've got it in place, or we've got our planning session at the moment. So if you'd like to answer that question, it'd be great just to give us a feel for, are you actually doing anything around generative AI? So not surprising, the answers are pretty consistent with what we'd expect. So 75% of people are saying that they've got a plan or are doing, and there's obviously some 25% saying they're not quite there yet. And not too surprising, I don't think there's too many people saying no, they're not going to use it. I think everyone's got a plan of some sort, whether they've thought it out with how they're going to use it. I think still there's a lot of hype in the early days. It's drifted off a little bit, and now people are starting to plan seriously about what do they do with generative AI now that we've got over the hype phase. So what are we doing from an Avanti side of things when it comes to AI and machine learning and automation within the solution? And this is a key aspect of that. So we're not looking at just a purely generative AI. Everyone talks about it. It's a piece of a bigger puzzle, which is AI in the ITSM solution. And when we look at this, we actually want to look at it from the point of view of how do we expand that to the use cases that might be most relevant within what we consider the ITSM space. And we're looking at that from expanding in multiple ways. So it can help with the scope of automation. So there are areas where AI can help from an automation side of things, but it's also about helping them to answer or respond to employee questions. So we can do it through chat. So how do we improve that? Creating knowledge articles. One of the biggest issues in most IT organisations when it comes to ITSM is getting people to generate knowledge articles. So how do we have something there that can simplify that process and create knowledge articles that can go through that process much easier? Proactively solving issues and other areas of automation that we can expand upon. We're also looking at how we can improve the awareness and decision making around AI. So how can AI provide new insights that help your decision making around ITSM? And a lot of what we talk about when we think about AI at the moment is how can we get that to provide better insights? And I think generative AI is very much focused in most organisations around providing you key data or insights into what you need to be doing. And then transforming that user experience. So how can we use AI to simplify and transform your user experiences? So as an end user jumping onto a self-service portal, it will start to evolve in that chat GPT type approach where you'll ask a question and it will start to respond to you with appropriate answers or ways of getting what you asked for. So I'm making a service request, for example, it could generate that for you. So you'll start to see some development around there. You know, that's still a little way off, but we're looking at that development of those capabilities or potentially even from a ITSM, if you are an administrator within the solution, how can we actually help you using generative AI to configure your ITSM solution? You might say, I need to build a new line of business application. You put in the business requirements for that business application and it will go and generate that classification for you. So there are things that we're working through to say, how do we put this into the ITSM solution moving forward? But where are we getting now? So where are we currently with our Avanti neurons for ITSM? And we do have AI inside the solution. So recently, for a while now, we've actually had incident classification. So where we can streamline that incident management process by it's automatically classifying the incident. So it will reduce or improve response times by automatically classifying your incident and sending it to the right teams appropriately. But what we have introduced is some generative AI capabilities. So incident summarization, and we'll look at that in the demonstration around helping IT teams automatically go through an incident and giving you a summarization of what's actually happening on that incident. Sometimes if the incident's been around for quite a long time, you'll find that it's hard to work out what is actually going on within the incident. Generative AI can give you a great summarization of what's happened within the incident, where are we at, who's working on what do we think the issue might be. And then when we do resolve an incident, what about harnessing the power of the generative AI to create that knowledge article for you so that we've got the ability to then put that out into the knowledge base? And potentially that could be just an internal one that's used by the service desk, or we could have that expand out to the self-service portal and having that there. So generating better knowledge articles more frequently and having that more relevant information. And then we have our self-healing, which is taking troubleshooting off the service desk agenda, automatic detection, diagnosing, healing, can all make the process of resolving issues much quicker. And also the virtual agent, where we deliver exceptional employee experience with that AI-powered natural language processing virtual assistant. So these are all capabilities that are currently in the solution. As I talked about, we're going to continue to evolve our AI capabilities over the next releases, and you'll see that as we go through. But today we're going to concentrate our demonstration on those key aspects. So we're going to look at incident classification, self-healing, our virtual agent, and then the two capabilities we have in generative AI in the ITSM solution. So let's have a look at that demo and let's start that and have a look at, jump into that demonstration straight away so that you can see what we have to offer. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start this demonstration by looking at ticket classification or incident classification. So we're going to go in here and create a new incident. And the idea of ticket classification is to automatically categorize that incident based on the data that we're entering into the incident. So let's say it's my laptop that I've got an issue with. And I'm going to say my PC is very slow. And that's my criteria that I've put in at this point. Now, what's happening behind the scenes here is that we go through the process of looking at what would be the best service and category for that to go under. And you can see that we have recommended Avanti Neurons AI recommendations, so we know that we've applied a recommendation in there. And that we can see we've put the service as desktop service and performance issue. So automatically we've categorized this based on the criteria that we have there. Now, that can be done, so if we log that, regardless of how we log this incident, we will automatically categorize that for you, which then helps you drive processes that you have behind the scenes. If I change that and I say my printer is not working, then we recategorize that to printer failure. So automatically, again, using AI based on the data that we've had, and we've taught that data, and it uses machine learning. So we need to teach this what it does, and you can teach it off your own data. Then we automatically go and classify this incident. So that's how the process of incident classification works. So what you go through is export your data, run that through our machine learning, and then it will automatically then go and categorize the service and category and give you the recommendations on that particular process. So that's ticket classification. It's fairly straightforward, but it's a means of getting that category and service defined very easily, so then you can trigger other things. So you might be able to then go and trigger, how do we want that to be assigned? Who do we want that to be assigned to? So we can start to build off other processes at the back of then. Now let's extend this a little bit further and take into case of what I want to do now is have some sort of automation run. So when we were looking at that from a ticket classification side of things, we put in printer is not working. On the right-hand side here, you'll start to see things like this neurons for healing. And what we bring back here is based off the criteria of the incident, we'll come back with recommendations on how to potentially fix this issue. So for this, it's round printing. But if I go back and look at my PC is slow, we'll say again, we change my categorizations for ticket classification, and you can see I've got different neurons for healings here as well. So we're basing that criteria of which way we want to go. So I'm going to stick with my printer is not working because we want to fix that. So let's put that back to the way we were. So we've got printer is not working, and we want to check this print spooler. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to link my asset to that so we know what we need to run that against. And from a help desk side of things, from a service desk side, the technician now could go and remote control into that device, but we could also just run this neurons healing bot and it will automatically go and execute that against that asset that we've just linked. And that's what we're going to do. Save the incident and we're going to execute the particular bot that we have defined to work, so that automation routine. And we'll quickly look at that automation when we come into the neurons healing and have a look at what actually is occurring. So that's now off and running, so that will go and execute. And what we'll do is we'll swap across to the desktop machine to see what's happening there. So here we are on the desktop. So the users logged the issue, we've come along, and what we do is using Microsoft Teams, we're able to make it interactive with the user so they're not getting a surprise of something happening in the background. And the first question we're going to ask, we're going to diagnose your print issues. Are you happy for us to proceed now? Because it might not always be the right time to run this. And we're going to say yes. So the healings bot is now executing. So what it's doing is now going to diagnose and say, why might this not be working? What's going on in the background? And it's going to go through a process now checking. So the first thing it's going to do is go and check to see if the print spooler is active. And we can see here we found the print spooler had stopped. So they're going to try and restart that. Now I've restarted the print spooler and we want to say, can you print now? So now you can decide, is it still printing or is it failing? If it's working, then we'll obviously go and close out the incident. If it's not working, then we can get some other diagnosis happening. And we're going to say the printer has worked. And that will end the workflow. And what it will also do is go and update the incident and close that incident off. So that's how easy it is. So that neurons healing bot logged the incident, clicked on that neurons healing bot, and off we run. What does the neurons healing bot look like? Let's go and have a quick look at that. So here we are within Avanti Neurons, and we have our neurons healing bot. Let's just go into edit to show this a bit better. And it will get executed. So when it gets executed, it's just going to check the machine and get some information around the machine. So that's what we call our agent overview. It's going to pull data back from that device. Then we have our Microsoft Teams interaction. So this is where we ask, do you want us to proceed or not? And we can ask yes or no. If we say no, we can say, look, we'll try again later. If we say yes, then we go through this process of checking the service state. And we're going to check the spooler, and we're looking to see if the spooler is running or if it has stopped. Now, if it's stopped, then we obviously go through and say, we've found it stopped, we'll start the service, and we'll go and re-execute that, and we see how we go. So we'll start the service, query to make sure it's still active, and then we come to that point where we go, has the print worked or has the print not worked? So this whole process is fairly straightforward. If it has worked, then we go through and wrap up. And if it hasn't worked, then we can come down this side and go, okay, what's happening at that point? So that's how we work within the system. So that neurons healing bot, it's all available. Now to edit that, it's fairly straightforward. We can do that from the left-hand side of what else do we want to put in there. what are the queries we want to run? So that's like querying against a particular device. What actions do we want to run? So again, we can perform different actions. So we could potentially go and create a new ITSM ticket if we wanted to do that, or other actions. And we can go through and do a whole lot of actions. And it's a simple drag and drop. If we wanted to put another interaction in there, we drag that in there, link that up, and then we can start to put in our messages and titles. So very straightforward, very quick, and very easy to use. So that's our ticket classification and our self-healing. So here we are, we're going to look at our virtual agent now, and with its natural language processing and also its automation capabilities. So you can have a widget that launches the virtual agent from a web form. It could be SharePoint. In this case, we've got it on our self-service portal. Or we also have the capability to have that active within a Microsoft Teams environment and have it talk through Microsoft Teams. So in this case, we've got our widget, we've got it active. We can have predefined questions, or it might be something like, let's go with our laptop is having issues. So my laptop performance is slow. So we'll go off and query using the virtual agent, using the knowledge base and the information it has available to me. It can go off and start to perform either looking at the knowledge base, or in this particular case, it could start to run some automation. So based on what it understood that query to be, it's performing some information there to say, you've got no problem with your connectivity, but there's a few other things we should be looking at. And would I like to speed that up? So in a similar way to what we did with our self-healing, it's going through some predefined processes to try and resolve the issue. Now, if it can't solve the issue, then you can go and generate an incident. So I can say, yeah, it was helpful, great, I've fixed everything. Or I can go, no, it actually hasn't fixed the issue that I've got. So it's going to go out and potentially go and log an incident for me. But first of all, it's just checking to see if there's a knowledge base article out there that might have been useful. And we can see we haven't done that, but we have created a query in there that would be my performance is slow. So we can have a look at that, see what we've got there and what the questions were. And in a similar way, we had another one previously where we had, I need a new computer. We asked a question, I need a new computer, went through various question and answers, talked about what the thing was, and we've got a new question answered. So really that's the capability of the virtual agent, is that ability linked in with automation to give us predefined information for us. Now we're going to finish up with our generative AI capabilities that we've introduced in ITSM 2024.2. Here we've got our incidents. We've got 2 incidents currently running, and we're going to look at these incidents. So we're going to come into the first incident, which is our laptop is always running very hot. Now, in a traditional sense, what you typically do after that is you would then look at your activity history and try and work out what's been previously performed by other members of the team and what activities have happened. And you'd go through and look at the different notes that are in there. So you'd look at each note, and you say, okay, what have we done? Let's go and look at that. Let's have a look at this. So you basically go through each of those notes to catch up on what's happening against that particular incident. Generative AI, what we've introduced is this capability to do an AI summary. So we're going to look at that now. So what that's going to do is go through all the notes, the information that we have there, and come up with a summary of that issue. So now we've got our incident summary, so that's been generated by our generative AI, and you can see here we've got our summary. So the incident's about a laptop that has been running very hot and slow since the last Microsoft update, and it was discovered that Firefox is consuming a lot of CPU. After cancelling Firefox, the issue seems to have been resolved. So that's given us that summary, and then we've got the different high-level histories that we pulled that from. So that's our source of information, and that's our summary of information. So very quickly, someone who's working on that service desk can quickly grab that information and go, okay, what have we done? What have we worked on? How have we actually resolved this? So let's have a look at another one of the incidents that we have here, which is our antivirus. And we can do the same thing. We're going to go through the same process, but in this particular case, we already know about our AI summary, so we're going to generate our summary straight away. And once again, we've got our generative AI summary. We've got the summary of that information when were the updates occurring, what did we grab, what information did we have, what the error code was, and also how do we go about resolving that. So again, quickly able to grab that information and know what information we've got at this point in time. Now, in this case, we know we've resolved this, so why don't we go through that process of resolving the incident, and then we can have a look at our generative AI for creating knowledge articles after that. So we're going to put that into a resolve state, and we'll put in the appropriate resolution information. So put in our resolution, we go and save that. And then what you'll notice up the top is we now have this generate knowledge article. So going through the incidents, typically what will happen at the end of an incident, you'll resolve it and you'll move on. What we want to do is start generating knowledge articles out of that. So I can say, I want to generate a knowledge article. And in this case, we want to use an issue and resolution. So it's going to automatically build out for me that draft of that knowledge article that we might want to use for future use on how to resolve this issue. And here we have our knowledge base article draft. We've got what the issue was, the title, what the keywords were that we used within there. We haven't put a collection because we do want to have that within that information. We've got a description of what has happened, and then we've got our resolution. So how do we go about resolving that? So it's given us a summary of that. It's given us a snapshot. You probably still want to go through and edit that, but we're well on the way to getting that done. And then we can just categorize that according to how we want that to work. And that's our generative AI capabilities to generate knowledge articles. So they're two core capabilities we've added with generative AI into the ITSM solution in 2024.2. So thanks for watching that demonstration, and hopefully you've got a better understanding of what we actually have generated within the solution. So we did have a question from one of our people watching, and it is to do with, is all the data in our Avanti applications collected for your large corporation data sets for improvement of AI and ML? So we don't share that information. So the collection is restricted to your local or your cloud instance. So it is cloud only, so it's going to be just within that. So we only look at your information. We don't go and share that information in any way outside of our platform. What we are able to do, and one of the questions within that was, if the AI generated inference is wrong, what I didn't show on there was the capability to say, yes, that worked. So there's a thumbs up or a thumbs down on the summarization of that incident summarization, for example, and you can add a comment in there as to why it didn't work. And that will use that information to start to get better at its generations over a period of time. Now, for the generative AI for the knowledge articles, that's different because we're generating that in a way that you can then edit later. So if it does get it wrong, you've got that ability to go and edit that. But certainly we're only using your Avanti instance. We're not going to put that in a bigger data set and use that as some means of collecting other information. It's your data. We're only searching against your data in its own right. So what we've had a look at was our incident classification, pre and post ticket automation, and also our generative AI, so virtual agents. So pre and post ticket automation, we've looked at from the self-healing. It reduces the number of incidents to the service desk, increases employee satisfaction, so you can get that capability working. We also looked at our virtual agent, where we're able to sort of look at the data and the information that was happening at that level. So delivering a natural intelligence, natural language processing virtual agent that your end users can use. And then we drilled into our incident summarization, so summarizing all that information from within the incident and giving you some means of saying, what does that data look like and how do we classify that? So using that as a means of getting up to date or potentially handing over that data. And the knowledge article creation was the final part of that, which is, I want to generate a knowledge article. You can decide what type of knowledge article you want to do, and it takes it from that incident and uses the information that you have from that knowledge article. And all of this is configurable. So one of the key aspects of that is when you get the AI within your Avanti instance, what you're then able to do is turn on what you want to turn on. So you can say, I don't want to turn on knowledge article creation yet, but I do want to have instant summarization. So what we've created is this AI configuration hub where you have the ability to turn on and off what you want to work against, and also have some flexibility on what fields we might create information from. So you can edit that, say, instant summarization, say, look, I want to pull the data out of maybe you've changed that from the description field to something else. You have the ability to go and edit that and say, I want to use data out of a different field. So give you some capabilities there to have a little bit of flexibility on what we look at and what you generate, but also what you turn on. So you might find functions that you're not ready to use, so you have the ability to turn them on and off as you go through that. And AI and automation, the whole concept of this is, improving the accuracy of your data. So from a ticket classification side of things, correct classification first time. But from an analyst, it's about looking at the data, all of the data that you have there, and looking at the summarization of that. So improving that analyst productivity instead of searching through notes all the time. Get the information quickly, which hopefully will reduce that resolution time. So you'll be able to resolve that quicker, get the information early and work with it. Improve that employee experience because we're reducing the resolution times, but if also as you start to introduce capabilities that will be external outside of the analyst view, so we'll start to introduce some of those capabilities onto the self-service portal, for example, where if they are creating an incident, we can start to summarize information that they have that they're trying to put in there and potentially make that better, that the incident that gets logs better, or potentially better information for searching the knowledge base. And reporting is obviously improved by the simple fact that we have better classification, better information within the incidents, and the ability to work within them. So we're just about up to our 30 minutes. We've had the one question there. If there's any other questions, you can put them quickly into the question and answer chat. Otherwise, I would like to thank you for attending the session today. It's been a great pleasure to present the AI and automation, and also particularly our new capabilities around generative AI. And we will be coming out with much more over the next period of time, and you'll start to see us keep releasing AI capabilities into the solution as we go forward. Thank you for joining us today. Hope it was good for you. There was one question, how do you download the slides? There should be a link, either if it's not there today, we'll be sending out a link to the presentation, the on-demand presentation later, so you'll be able to download that, look at that and download that later. Thank you very much.